Hey guys, tonight we begin with something simple. This is a calm history story. There's no music here, no sudden sounds, no surprises. You don't need to listen closely. If your thoughts drift, that's perfectly fine. Tonight, we slow things down. We are going back in time, not quickly, very slowly, back to colonial America. A time before nations were nations, before borders were drawn clearly. A time when most people lived in small wooden homes, woke with the sun, slept when it was dark. Tonight we observe that time. We don't rush through it. We don't search for drama. We simply watch, quietly. And if you fall asleep, that is exactly right. Because tonight, history moves slowly, very slowly. And now, we begin. Morning came quietly. The sun rose, slowly. Light came through small windows, wooden shutters, simple glass, cold glass. People woke without alarm clocks. They opened their eyes, blinked, sat up slowly. The air was cool, sharp against the skin. Floors were wooden, rough wood. Bare feet touched them carefully. The wood was cold, uneven in places, small splinters sometimes. A simple room, maybe a chair, a table, a fireplace in the corner. The fire had gone out overnight. Someone knelt down, their knees pressed against the floor, hard floor. They added wood, dry wood. It felt rough. Bark peeled away in their hands. They struck flint against steel, once, twice, sparks, tiny orange sparks. Small flames appeared, grew slowly, the smell of smoke, thin smoke. Warmth began to fill the room. Not quickly, it took time. Minutes passed, maybe 10 minutes, maybe more. The warmth crept across the floor. Outside, birds made sounds, soft sounds, distant sounds. Chickens moved in the yard, pecking at dirt, walking slowly. Their feet made small scratching sounds. A cow stood in a small pen. It chewed. Slowly, its jaw moved. Side to side, it blinked, waited. Breakfast was simple. Porridge made from cornmeal or oats. It cooked in a pot. Over the fire, a heavy iron pot. Someone stirred it, slowly, with a wooden spoon. The wood was smooth, worn smooth from years of use. The spoon scraped the bottom, again and again. A rhythm, scrape, pause, scrape. The porridge was thick. It moved slowly in the pot. Children woke, slowly. They sat at the table, wooden benches, hard benches. Their clothes were wrinkled from sleep, rough linen, scratchy against the skin. Wooden bowls were placed in front of them, warm porridge. Steam rose from it. They ate quietly. The porridge was bland, slightly gritty. No one spoke much in the morning, just the sound of spoons, wood against wood, and breathing, slow breathing. Outside, the dirt path was still. A few people walked by, slowly. Their footsteps were soft. Dirt compressed under boots. A quiet sound. They nodded. Sometimes. Most of the time, they just walked. Morning in the colonies was not rushed. It simply happened. One moment at a time. And now, we move forward. Slowly. The town was small, very small. A main street, dirt roads, wooden buildings on both sides. Some buildings were homes, some were shops, a blacksmith, a general store, a tavern, maybe a church at the end of the street. People knew each other. They had lived in the same town for years, sometimes their whole lives. They recognized faces, the blacksmith's son, the storekeeper's wife, the farmer who lived just outside town. Every morning the same people appeared, walking the same paths, opening the same doors. The blacksmith opened his shop early. He lit the forge. The fire grew. He picked up his hammer, set it down, picked it up again. The sound of metal on metal rang out softly. Across the street, the general store opened. The door creaked. Inside, shelves were lined with simple goods: flour, salt, nails, cloth. A woman entered. She nodded to the storekeeper. He nodded back. She picked up a small bag of flour, set it on the counter. He weighed it slowly. Go. She paid a few coins. She left. The door creaked again. Outside, 2 men stood talking. Their voices were low. One gestured slowly, the other nodded. They were not in a hurry. No one was. A child ran past, stopped, turned, ran back. The tavern door was closed. It would open later, in the evening. For now, the town was quiet, familiar, predictable, and that felt safe. People liked knowing what would happen next, who they would see, where they would go. Life moved in circles, the same circles, over and over, and most people did not mind. News traveled slowly, very slowly. There were no phones, no radios, no computers. Information moved by paper and by word of mouth. A letter might take weeks to arrive, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes 2 months. People wrote letters by hand. They sat at tables, dipped quills in ink, black ink, thick ink. The quills scratched the paper. A soft, scratching sound. They wrote carefully, 1 word at a time. The ink dried slowly. They waited, watching the ink turn from wet to dry, shiny to dull. It took time, minutes. They folded the paper, slowly, pressing the creases, sealed it with wax, red wax or brown. They melted it over a candle, watched it drip, 1 drop, 2 drops, then pressed a seal into the wax, a mark, a symbol. Then they waited for someone to carry the letter, a writer, a traveler, a merchant. Days passed, a week, 2 weeks. The letter sat, waiting. Then it moved, slowly, from hand to hand, 1 town to the next. The letter moved, through rain, through mud, through delays. It took 3 weeks, sometimes 4. When it arrived, the recipient opened it carefully, unfolded the paper. The creases were deep. The paper was soft from handling. They read the words slowly, then read them again, because the words were already old, written a month ago from a world that had moved on. But the words were all they had. Newspapers existed, but they were rare, printed on small presses. The pages were thin, fragile. The ink sometimes smudged. People read them slowly, in taverns, in homes, in shops. They passed the paper to others. "Have you read this?" Someone nodded. They sat together, read quietly. The news might be 2 weeks old or 3, but they read it anyway, because it was all they had. They folded the paper when they were done, set it aside. Maybe they would read it again tomorrow. Conversations about the news were quiet, low voices. People did not shout. They thought. They paused. Long pauses. They considered. "What do you think?" A silence, 10 seconds, 20. "I don't know." Another pause. "We'll see." And that was often the end of it, because no one knew what would happen next. So they waited. Weeks, months, they read and folded the papers and continued, waiting for the next letter. That might come, or might not. Near the coast, ports were busy, but not rushed. Ships arrived, slowly. Their sails were visible from far away, small dots on the horizon, white dots. People watched them approach. It took time, an hour, sometimes 2. The ships moved with the wind, gentle wind. They rocked side to side. When they finally docked, ropes were tied. Thick ropes, rough ropes. The fibers scratched against hands. Men wrapped them around wooden posts, heavy posts. The wood was worn smooth from years of ropes, dark from water. The ship rocked gently in the water, creaking sounds, wood against wood. The hull groaned softly. Men climbed down, onto the dock. Their boots made sounds on the wood. Heavy sounds. Thud, thud. The dock creaked. Cargo was unloaded. Crates, barrels, sacks. Men lifted them, one at a time. The crates were heavy, rough wood. Splinters caught on gloves. They set them down, hard. The dock shook slightly, lifted another. Grunting sounds, breathing sounds. The work was slow, steady. No machines, just hands and backs and time, hours of time. Merchants stood nearby, watching. They wore coats, wool coats, dark wool, heavy. They held papers, lists. The paper fluttered in the breeze. They checked the cargo, counted, made marks on the paper with charcoal sticks, soft black marks. Around them the smell of salt, strong salt smell, and fish, old fish, seaweed, wet wood, the smell of the ocean, thick in the air, the sound of water lapping against wood, soft splashing over and over, seagulls overhead, calling, sharp cries, then silence, then calling again. Trade was the rhythm of the port. Goods came in, goods went out. Tea, cloth, sugar, tools, things people needed or wanted. But trade was also slow. A ship might stay docked for days, 3 days, 5 days, while cargo was loaded or unloaded, or while the captain waited for wind, for payment, for word. People came to the port just to watch. They stood at the edge, looked out at the water, gray water, moving water, at the ships. Some were waiting for someone, a family member, a friend. They waited for weeks, came to the port every day, watching the horizon. Some were just watching, because the port was where things moved, even if slowly. And in a world where most things stayed the same, movement felt important, even if it was quiet, even if it took weeks. Evening came, the sun set slowly, colors changed in the sky, orange, pink, purple, then gray, soft gray, then dark, deep dark. People returned to their homes. Doors closed, wooden doors, heavy doors. Latches clicked, metal against metal, a soft click. Inside, candles were lit, one at a time. Someone held a taper, a thin piece of wood. They lit it in the fireplace. A small flame appeared, orange flame. They touched it to the candle wick. The wick caught. Slowly, the flame grew. Small, it flickered, moved in the air. Shadows moved on the walls. Soft shadows, long shadows. They stretched, changed shape. The light was not bright, just enough to see. Warm light, yellow light. The candle wax was soft near the flame. It melted, slowly, dripped down the side, one drop at a time. The wax cooled, hardened on the candlestick, white wax or pale yellow. Families gathered around the table or near the fire. Dinner was simple: bread, hard bread, stew, thin stew, maybe cheese. They ate quietly, the sound of spoons, wood against clay bowls, the sound of breathing, slow breathing. After dinner, some people just sat near the fire, watching the flames. The flames moved slowly, changed shape, orange, red, blue at the base. They disappeared, reappeared. The fire crackled, small pops, wood shifting. Children fell asleep. On floors, on benches, their heads dropped, slowly. Parents carried them to bed, gently, lifting them carefully. Some people wrote, by candlelight, letters, notes, records. They dipped the quill in ink. The quills scratched the paper. A soft sound, scritch, scritch. They paused, watching the ink dry. Dipped the quill again. Black ink, wet ink. It pooled slightly on the paper. They continued, one word, then another. Others read, if they had a book or a pamphlet or an old newspaper. They read by candlelight, slowly. The light was dim. They squinted, leaned closer. Read the same line twice, because it was hard to see, or because their mind drifted. The candle burned. The wick grew shorter. The flame stayed steady. Wax dripped slowly, pooling at the base, hardening. Outside, the world was dark. No streetlights, no lamps on posts, just darkness, complete darkness, and stars, tiny points of light, and the sound of wind, soft wind through trees, or silence, deep silence. People went to bed early because there was no reason to stay awake. They lay down on straw mattresses. The straw rustled. It poked through fabric, sharp pieces under wool blankets, heavy blankets, scratchy wool. The room was cold. The fire had died down. Cold air crept in, through gaps, under doors. But they were used to it. They pulled the blanket close, tucked it around themselves. They closed their eyes and waited for sleep. And sleep came, slowly, as it always did. Something was changing, not quickly, not loudly, but people felt it in small ways. Conversations lasted a little longer. Pauses grew heavier. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30. People glanced at each other, then looked away. No one said much, but everyone noticed. The rhythm of life was still the same. Morning, work, evening, the same hours, the same tasks. But something underneath was shifting. Time felt different, slower. Days stretched. A morning felt like an entire day. An afternoon lasted forever. People worked, the same work, but it felt heavier, longer. It was hard to name. Uncertainty, that might be the word. People were uncertain, not afraid, not yet, just uncertain. About tomorrow, about next week, about next month. Letters took longer to arrive, or maybe they just felt longer. People checked every day. Has anything come? No. Maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow came. Nothing. Maybe tomorrow. Days passed like this. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Still waiting. News from distant places seemed important, but also distant. Very distant. As if happening in another world. People read, folded the paper, sat, thought. What does this mean? No one knew. The silence after the question lasted a long time. Minutes. No one filled it. Merchants at the port spoke in lower voices. They looked at their lists for a long time. Then at the horizon for a long time. Then back at their lists. Goods were still unloaded, but some shipments were late, a week late, 2 weeks, or didn't come at all. People waited. Weeks turned into months. In the towns, shops stayed open, but conversations inside them were quieter, shorter. The blacksmith hammered, but sometimes he stopped, set the hammer down, stood still for a long time, just stood, thinking, staring at nothing, then picked up the hammer again. In homes, families sat by the fire, as they always had, but the silences were longer, much longer. Someone would start to speak, open their mouth, then stopped, closed it. Never mind. Minutes passed. No one spoke, just the fire crackling. Children didn't notice much. They played, ran, laughed. But adults moved more slowly, as if carrying something heavy, something invisible. They walked slower, talked slower, thought slower. Time stretched. Days felt longer. Not because more happened, but because less did. Each hour felt like 3. Each day felt like a week. People waited. For what? They weren't sure. But waiting became normal. Waking up and waiting. Working and waiting. Eating and waiting. Sleeping and waiting. And life continued, as it always had, slowly, very slowly, with or without answers. The word independence existed. People heard it, sometimes in taverns, in quiet conversations, in letters. But it was not shouted. It was whispered, considered, turned over in the mind, like a stone in the hand. What did it mean? No one was entirely sure. Independence, freedom, self-governance, words, just words, for now. Some people spoke of it as if it were far away, a distant idea, something happening somewhere else. To other people, others spoke of it as if it were already here, quietly growing, like seeds under soil, not visible yet, but there. In homes, people talked, carefully. What do you think? A pause. I don't know. Another pause. Maybe. They didn't argue. They didn't debate. They simply wondered. The idea moved slowly, from person to person, from town to town, carried in letters and quiet words and glances. No one was certain what independence would mean, what it would cost, or if it would even happen. But the idea was there, sitting in the background like smoke from a fire, not visible, but present. Some people wanted it, some people feared it. Most people just thought about it, quietly, and continued their days, because life did not stop for ideas. Life continued. Fields were plowed, bread was baked, children were fed, whether independence came or not, and so people worked and waited and thought without knowing what would come next. 61 or 68, Section 9, Homes, Writing, and Reflection. People spent time at home, more than usual, sitting, thinking. Some wrote letters, long letters. They sat at tables, wooden tables, hard wood. Their elbows rested on the surface, smooth in some places, rough in others. They held quills, feather quills, light, delicate. The feather felt soft between fingers. They dipped them in ink, black ink. The ink was thick, almost like oil. It clung to the quill. They wrote slowly, carefully, scritch, scritch. The sound of the quill on paper. The paper was rough, not smooth like today, textured, handmade. The words mattered, or felt like they did. They wrote to family, to friends, to people far away. I hope you are well. They paused, set the quill down, stared at the words for a long time. Picked up the quill again, dipped it, more ink. Things are uncertain here. Another pause, longer this time. They read what they wrote, lips moving slightly. Sometimes they crossed out a word. A thick black line through it rewrote it. Different word, same meaning. The ink dried. It took time. Wet ink was shiny. It slowly turned dull, flat black. They waited, watching it dry, then folded the paper, carefully, pressing the creases with her thumb. Sharp creases, set it aside. On the corner of the table, to be sent later, or maybe not sent at all. Others read, if they had books or pamphlets or old letters, yellowed letters. They unfolded them carefully. The paper was soft, worn. They read the same lines over and over, because the words felt heavy. They wanted to understand, but understanding took time. So they read again. In the evening, people sat by the fire, watching the flames, not speaking, just watching. The heat pressed against their faces, warm, almost too warm, but their backs were cold. The fire crackled softly, wood burned, orange embers glowed, turned to ash, gray ash, light ash that floated. Someone added more wood, picked up a log, heavy log, rough bark, placed it carefully. The flames grew, then settled. Children played nearby with simple toys, wooden blocks, smooth blocks, corn husk dolls, soft dolls. They didn't notice the silence. They were used to it, but adults noticed. They felt it, the weight of it, the weight of waiting, of not knowing. And so they sat, still, very still, and reflected on what had been, on what might be, on what they could control, which was very little. Their hands, their home, their family. That was all. but they stayed in their homes, with their families, in the silence, because that was all they had. And it was enough for now. The word appeared. War. People heard it in letters, in conversations, in newspapers. War. But for most people, it was just a word. Distant, abstract, something happening somewhere else. Not here, not yet. Most people never saw a battle, never heard gunfire, never saw soldiers marching. They only heard about it. And even then, the details were vague. There was fighting. Where? I don't know. Far from here. Life continued. Fields were still worked. Shops were still open. Children still played. But the word lingered. War. It sat in the back of the mind like a shadow. Some men left to join militias, to join armies. Their families watched them go, quietly. No parades, no fanfare. Just a man walking down a road with a musket or a pack. And then he was gone. The family went back inside and continued because there was nothing else to do. Women worked harder than before because now they worked alone. Children helped more, carried water, fed animals, gathered wood. In towns, some shops closed because the owners left or because goods stopped arriving, but most stayed open. Life adjusted. Slowly, war was mentioned, but it was not seen, not by most. It was a distant rumble, a faraway storm. People heard about it and wondered and worried, but they did not stop. They kept moving, one day at a time, because stopping was not an option. And so war became part of life, not the center of it, just another thing, in the background, always there, but not always visible. 75 to her 82s in section 11, tiredness and continuation. People were tired not from one day, but from many, from weeks, from months, from years, from waiting, from uncertainty, from continuing when they didn't know what they were continuing toward. Faces looked older, lines deepened around eyes, around mouths. Hands were rougher, calloused, cracked, from work, from time, from cold. But life went on, because it had to. Morning still came. Every morning, the sun still rose. Slowly, always slowly. People still woke, still dressed, still ate, still worked. The routine was the same, exactly the same, day after day, week after week, but it felt heavier. Each day felt heavier than the last. In the fields, crops were planted. Spring came. Seeds went into the ground, one seed at a time. Summer came. Crops grew. Slowly, autumn came. Crops were harvested, cut, gathered, stored. Winter came. Fields lay empty, frozen. Then spring again and again and again, as they always were. But fewer people worked them now, so the work took longer, much longer, and the tiredness grew. Deeper, heavier. In homes, families gathered, but the conversations were shorter, much shorter. People spoke less because there was less to say, or because they were too tired to say it, or because the same words had been said too many times. Children still played, but quieter, softer, as if they sensed something. The weight their parents carried, the silence that filled rooms. In towns, shops stayed open, but shelves were emptier, much emptier. Goods arrived less often. A shipment might come, then nothing for weeks, then another shipment, then nothing for a month. People bought what they could and made do. The tavern was quieter, fewer voices, fewer laughs. Men sat at the same tables, drank slowly, stared at the table, at the wood grain, at nothing, then went home, walked home slowly, very slowly. Letters still arrived, but less frequently, much less frequently. Weeks passed between letters. sometimes months, and when they did arrive, people read them quickly, scanned the words, then folded them quickly and put them away in drawers under other papers, out of sight, because the words inside were often hard to read, not because of the handwriting, but because of what they said or didn't say. Time moved forward, always forward, never stopping. Seasons changed, winter came, snow fell, melted, then spring, rain, mud, then summer, heat, dust, then autumn. Leaves fell, then winter again, and again, and again. Years passed like this, and people continued, not because they were strong, but because there was no other choice. Stopping was not possible, so they continued. Tiredness was normal now, deep tiredness, bone tiredness. Uncertainty was normal. Waiting was normal. Long waiting, endless waiting. And so people waited and worked and hoped quietly, very quietly, without knowing when it would end or how or if. Years passed, slowly, one after another. People grew older, children became adults, adults became elderly, the world changed, but not suddenly, gradually, in small ways. The word war was used less. Other words appeared: peace, settlement, treaty, but they were just words. Life looked mostly the same. People still woke, still worked, still ate, still slept. The routines continued because routines were safe. In towns, shops reopened slowly. Goods began arriving again from ships, from merchants. Trade resumed. Not as it was before, but similar. People adjusted. They always did. Families grew. New children were born, named after grandparents or neighbors or no one in particular. They cried. They learned to walk. They grew. And the cycle continued. Some men returned from wherever they had gone. They walked down the same roads, entered the same homes, sat at the same tables, but they were different, quieter. Their families noticed, but didn't ask, and the men didn't speak. They just continued, because that was what everyone did. The idea of independence was no longer whispered. It was simply understood or accepted or forgotten. It didn't matter much anymore, because life was the same: work, rest, repeat. History books would be written later, much later, by people who hadn't been there. They would use words like revolution and victory and freedom, but the people who lived through it didn't use those words. They just lived, one day at a time. And when they looked back, they didn't see glory. They saw time, long stretches of time, filled with work and waiting and tiredness and continuation. And that was enough. History continues, always. It doesn't stop. It doesn't end. It simply moves forward, quietly. The people we've observed tonight are gone now. Their homes are gone. Their towns have changed or disappeared. But the routines they lived are familiar: waking, working, eating, resting. These things continue in different forms, but the same rhythms. Tonight, we observed a small piece of time, a few years in one part of the world. We didn't see battles or grand speeches or famous names. We saw daily life, slow, repetitive, ordinary. And that's what most of history is. Not the dramatic moments, but the quiet ones, the mornings, the evenings, the waiting. And now you've reached the end of the story. But you don't need to think about it. You don't need to remember details. You can simply let it go. Let the words fade. Let the images blur. Let your mind rest. History will continue, quietly, as it always has. And now, so can you. Rest